Hi, and welcome back to Talk Therapy channel on YouTube. My name's Tammy Fletcher. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and today we're filming from our therapy office in San Diego. I wanted to talk a little bit today about an article that showed up recently on the internet, on the web version of Time magazine. It got a lot of people pretty upset, and it brought up some issues that I think are important to address. The article was titled, Redefining Crazy. I think that one of the hats that we wear as clinicians is sometimes to be an advocate for our clients and for issues related to mental health in our communities. So whether we're talking about mild anxiety or depression, all the way to a diagnosis like schizophrenia, there can be a stigma attached. And what I mean by that is a negative view of mental health disorders by people in society. We throw words around like crazy or schizo or psycho or bipolar. Without even realizing it or without even meaning to, we can contribute to the stigma that exists in our society around mental illness. Now, the Time.com article was primarily focused on this book, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, or what we call the DSM. This copy belongs to my office mate, and I can pretty much guarantee that any clinician that works with clients and diagnoses, their copy probably looks pretty much like this, with lots of bookmarks and very, very heavily used. The Time.com article author refers to the DSM as the therapist's Bible. I'm not quite sure about that, but it can be useful for a number of things. One being, it gives us a common language to talk about mental health issues and diagnoses with one another, with our clients, and helps us to sort of get a handle on what someone's experiencing when they present to us with a set of symptoms and how best to treat it. The DSM is also necessary for therapists who work with insurance companies. In order for an insurance company to authorize your treatment and pay for it, you have to have a diagnosis from the DSM and a treatment plan. And usually the therapist will have to give regular updates to your insurance company about your diagnosis. Where the DSM or any manual falls short, I think, is that you can't reduce people to words on paper. Each person is unique, their set of symptoms is unique, their physiology. Everybody's an individual, and I think it's really important to continue to look at them that way. But as most clinicians do, I find the DSM very useful for just sort of understanding sets of symptoms and what they can represent. But ultimately, I have to look at each client that comes to see me as an individual person and work with them to get to the bottom of what they're experiencing. So the DSM can be a great tool, but we can't rely on it as strictly a labeling device. The purpose primarily, I think, of the Time.com article was to discuss some of the upcoming changes in the new DSM that's coming out in 2013. And that's the DSM-5. The Time.com article set out to discuss some of these upcoming changes in the new DSM, but where they went instead was to sort of use inflammatory language and really contribute to the stigma of mental illness, using the umbrella term of crazy for disorders such as mental retardation, autism, sexual dysfunction, addiction, eating disorders, social anxiety, mild depression, you name it. I mean, everything that is in here, and there are hundreds and hundreds of diagnoses, kind of went under the heading of crazy. So using terminology like that may create an eye-catching headline, but it's not helpful for people who are struggling with these issues. In addition, there's some misinformation in the article. One example is the condition called dermatillomania, which is chronic skin picking. And the article calls that a reality show problem, not a real issue. So some people might wonder, why is this such a big deal? Why not just laugh it off and ignore it? Well, one, it's time.com. It's not the Inquirer or TMZ. At least for me, I expect a certain level of journalistic integrity from Time. And second, the people who are most affected by this type of language may not have the strength or the ability to just sort of laugh it off. Some of them may be experiencing vulnerability or shame or struggle with their own mental health issues. It's difficult enough to reach out for help if you're struggling with any of the hundreds of diagnoses that are in this book. But calling them, these diagnoses, crazy, and discussing the book in terms of the new one, redefining all of these different flavors of crazy, is not helpful. If you're experiencing challenges with your mental health, you may find that people around you don't always really understand. It can be difficult to explain what you're going through. And again, you may be affected by the stigma of mental illness, which can create frustration and shame and reluctance to reach out for support. If even one person decides not to reach out for help because of some of the language or inflammatory terms used in this Time.com article, then they've done their readers a disservice. So I encourage you, everyone watching, to help in reducing the stigma attached to mental illness, mental health issues. Become as educated as you can. If you know of someone who's struggling, reach out, offer your support. And if you're struggling yourself, I've included some links below to some reliable information that I think might be of help. I welcome your comments below on any thoughts you have, any resources that you'd like to share, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.